Hi, everybody. This is Zoph, and you are watching Simply SCAdian No Title Required, hosted by me and my good friend Lucas, who's from the East Kingdom. So, look, I'm wearing this today. I want y'all to notice I'm wearing my East Kingdom coat for our special guest star, Damiana de Granada. Simply SCAdian is a show dedicated to talking to people who are not peers, who are not court or landed baron or baronesses, regular folks like you and me about their lives, about the SCA, about what they love, what they hate, what they think we need to work on, all that kind of fun jazz. I'm going to turn it over now to Lucas.
Yeah, so if you think you have somebody who fits the criteria, again, not landed, no title, and they are very knowledgeable in their area, whatever area that is. I mean, we'll take all comers. So whether it's in the Bardic arts, whether it's in service, whether it's in fighting, we will talk to anybody. There's a lot that we can learn from people, and it's not just the people with titles. Even though great that they've taken that path, a lot of people choose not to, and it's a lot of fun to talk to people like that. Speaking of talking to people like that, I would like to introduce you to a long time great friend of mine, Lady Damiana de Granada. She joined the SCA via RUSCA, which was the Rutgers-based society group. Her first event was Penzig 25, and she describes herself as a consummate dabbler. Investigated several periods and countries for garb, cooking, fencing, fighting, archery, court dancing, Middle Eastern dancing, and probably a lot of other things she says that she's forgotten. A jack of all trades and a master of some, I might add. She also ran a couple day boards for our local barony here, which is Setmore Swamp, for our event called Mud Thaw, which is kind of coming up if they're going to let us do things like that. Who knows? But welcome, Damiana. Welcome to the show.
So I love being a guest star. That's very nice. Although there's one too many longs on the longtime friend there.
It's been long now. It is. It
I
is.
know,
It
it's
is.
so long.
Uh,
Oh God, I know. And it's like my first Penzig was 25. What Penzig is it? Oh,
I don't. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
I
even
don't want
know
to count.
which one counts now.
right. Well, so last year was supposed to be 49,
Yeah, the Penzig
and
wasn't.
the Pensick that wasn't. Yeah, yeah.
It sounds like we should write a children's story. The Penzig that wasn't.
Wasn't. I think there needs to be at least some epic tales about what everyone did in their like epically long town run.
True.
The Penzig that wasn't. I feel like it should be a ghost story. All of us haunted by the Penzig that wasn't.
I like that. I
I'm gonna
like
do
that.
mine in a Dr. Seuss style. That's how I'm gonna write it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Um.
all right. So tell us, you went to Rutgers then, and you
Yes.
found the SCA there. What was that experience like for you finding it when you were a college student?
Well, so my father did Civil War and Revolutionary War reenactments when we were growing up. So I was all too familiar with pinafores and antler buttons and things like that. So my sister actually is a year older than me, and is also she's way more active, and is a peer actually in the SCA. Very proud of her. And she joined the RUSCA, which was at the time part of the Canton of Griffenwald. The group is defunct. So Rutgers had a rule where you couldn't have an outside organization have a chapter at Rutgers. So they had to be their own thing. And my sister was seneschal there, I think for like 3 or 4 years. I don't know, like they tapped her really early on as someone who's capable, can do spreadsheets. And so that was like it was over after that. But yeah, so it was, as a college student, to be doing something cool with my sister was top notch. And it was kind of bringing it back to my childhood, like she and I running around in funny clothes. I remember one of my first, I think, Riska event was Medieval Night at Cafe News, which is now an amazing taco place. But at the time, it was this super sort of avant-garde, or like, as far as central New Jersey gets, avant-garde coffee house with a guy who, I guess if he was on the right kind of illegal substance, would sit you down and tell you his philosophy of life. And you could get high priced Starbucks, pre-Starbucks coffee and pastries that had really uncertain lineages. And then out back was this courtyard. And there was this, people would come and play music, and we had, the bard in a box, aka boombox. But a few people who could play a few things on the recorder, and some people knew some court dances from other things. And it was a great time. I had this horrible, like super fluttery poet's blouse and silk from like Caldor or something. I don't know, a store that's I'm sure now bankrupt. And a peasant skirt, and like we were just the best thing ever. And it was a lot of fun. We did a small Renaissance festival there that we had catered through university. And my sister really did run a lot of it, so I felt sort of privileged to know the backstories and be in on what was going on. She met her husband through that. So it was a really good time. Then I got to know a lot of people in House Bathier from the Canton of Griffenwald, and got to kind of in on the East Kingdom stuff, the Barony of Setmore Swamp here, and eventually kind of sprinkled my way through.
And now you still live in Setmore Swamp, right?
Yes. Yeah. Still a resident. Only really never left, actually. I don't know, maybe for a year I was on the outskirts. But yeah, and it's a really an old home, a down home feel. Now it's a little bit like going to SCAdian events when you haven't been there in a while. I say it's like going to your high school reunion when no one remembers you. So
I mean, I remember like I think you brought me to my first mud thaw.
mm-hmm.
We were out doing Damiana and I, we really met doing Renaissance festivals. And then with the company that we worked for at the time called Period Productions, I think it was my first month though. We went and did a historical reenactment fair in Nutley, New Jersey as pirates, and completely BS'd our way through any of the historical facts because the company did not warn us what we were about to do. And
we thought we were like giving an award or like just talking with people.
Yeah, or
and
walking around in character, and then suddenly we were like, "No, you're giving this historical talk on maritime." And we're like, "Oh, so that's a thing we kind of know."
There are 3 8-year-olds now with a completely BS definition of how to use a sextant. That's all I got. I was like, well, you point it up and you do
kind of look the stars, and then
North Star, and then some math happens. I don't know.
And then we went over to the mud thaw right after that.
Mm-hmm.
We went and drove me over there. So yes, I remember that.
Yeah. It's a wonderful event. It was always like my favorite event because it was a little like homecoming. And it's weird now because I've been out of the game for a while, and some of the people remember me immediately, and some of the people I remember, but they're not so sure. And other people I'm like, oh, you're new, but new meant they joined like 5 years ago. It's like, oh, hi.
But I mean, but you have a pretty big social presence. I mean, again, my experience with most of the SCA is Penzig. Mm-hmm. And you have a really big social presence as far as like bog life is concerned, and things like that. I mean, you can't walk 2 feet without finding somebody So
yeah, it's really funny because so I appreciate you saying that, because I know that my original group of Penzig goers and people who I would go to Penzig to see, because it was before Facebook and it was before, God, I'm dating myself now, before even like everyone had a cell phone. And so these people I would only see at Penzig, and none of them come anymore. And they sort of dropped off the face of the earth long before I was on social media, because I resisted it for a long time. So it's really interesting now that this is almost like cycle 2 or 3 of like people that I've met, but I've been going since Penzig 25, and I think I've missed only 2 or 3. So you kind of can't help but, meet and re-meet people. But we were talking before you guys went live that only about 3 people at Penzig, 3 people at Penzig, a few more people if I were to show up at a mud thaw, call me Damiana. The rest of the known world knows me as Booty McCall at the pirate ship Ravensfiddle.
Yeah.
I got nothing. I got
Yeah.
nothing. So
I
Yeah, I mean,
camped
when
with
you're
them
looking
for about 3 years before everyone else, who'd been there had a pirate name. And I didn't. They called me by my mundane name because they'd known me like Lucas for, years beforehand. And a long drama thing happened, and I ended up kind of being a refugee needing a place to camp, and they were like, come stay with us, and I never left. And father's like, I don't have a pirate name. And it was actually Lucas's wife who said, she's gotta be Booty.
okay, so I want a pirate name. I'm gonna have to ask your wife to give me a pirate name.
she's
So
currently laughing in the background, by the way.
so wait, I don't know that I want Christy to give me a pirate name. So
Hers is
Damiana,
hers is bait, by the way. And I'm Dutch, but that's not the full name. That's
Yeah. We
okay,
also
so
have, bilge. We've got a lot. Yeah.
yeah.
Not
That,
most
okay,
of them. Most of them not complimentary.
yeah.
never mind. Okay, so tell me about the pirate ship, the first pirate ship at Penzic that we know of. So all other pirate ships pale in comparison to the first pirate camp
Yeah.
ever.
But
Oh,
before you go, dude, I just want to say that when I was putting something together, I have an East Kingdom wiki because we did an event, and Zoe suggested I make this wiki. So I'm playing on it now that I can, and I found that the Raven Spittle had an entry, and it was one sentence. And now because I could edit stuff, I was like, oh no. And I like all our names are on there, and like everything's like I just made that thing legit. I was like,
Okay,
like
everybody go to the EK Wiki when we're done and go see all the awesomeness of Raven Spittle.
that's fantastic. Yeah. So now I am not by far an original or founding member of Raven Spittle. So, and I'm sure I don't know. Most of them are not active SCAdian members.
you
Outside
can
of
say
Penzic
any more though, because
anymore. Yeah.
they played when they were up on the Serengeti, they played the game.
Oh yeah.
Right.
We still do. I mean, I think whether or not we're the greatest pirate ship, I'm gonna go to say that we have the most letters of marque of any pirate ship, because I think we were joking we needed to install a filing cabinet in the new boat, so when a king came, we could pull out the filing cabinet, Echomark, East Kingdom, Meridies,
Oh
and go
my
through
God.
and find and put them in. Because we were the place where the royals would come and cut loose, like they could take off their hats and kind of be cool. So the first boat though was a prop from a production of the Pirates Penzance, and was at Penzig. And back in the day, which is hysterical to me looking back now, because Penzig to me was the safest place on earth. Like I walked alone at night. Didn't even think about it. My sister once left her basket with money and everything under a tree. Realized she left it, came back, and it was completely untouched. Like safest place in the world. But for whatever reason, the camp always had guards placed. Now, granted, down in the bog and even on the Serengeti when they were camped there, there's a certain amount of gameplay and thievery. So for example, at one point there was a woman who was kidnapped. So they put her in a chair and they fed her and gave her drinks all day, and then they ransomed her back to her camp. Like kidnapped. So there was a guard. And because we also had a pirate Gumby that was stolen and taken around the world, really was Epcot Center, but we got a picture book back of Gumby and all his travels that someone took and brought him back. So a young lady came to camp, and Ricardo, who is a very big fencer in the SCA, was keeping watch, and she was overcome with heat and asked to sit down and for some water. And she was a well-endowed young lady, and heaved a lot in her heat prostration, and then said what would be the most amazing thing was an Italian ice. And when he walked with her up top to get an ice, and of course, so he's like, yes, of course I will. So they go walk up top, and he buys her Italian ice, and they're sitting and eating, and he's making small talk, and she's just chuckling the whole time. And he realizes what he's saying is terribly funny, and he's like, why are you laughing? And she's like, because they're all stealing your ship right now. And I think 8 heavy fighters from her camp came with 2x4 dowel rods or whatever, stuck it under the ship, picked it up, and walked away with it. And so, so the original pirates were sold, then get back, and then I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for saying this because I don't know if this is like insider, but we didn't have a captain. The Raven Spittle, I should say, they didn't have a captain at the time, and it was time to get a captain. And they thought, who should be the captain? Who is least likely to ever let the boat get stolen again?
You?
Ricardo. The one, the one who let it go in the first place.
Oh,
So his punishment was to be made captain. So we have Captain No Beard, aka Ricardo, and I can't think of his SCAdian last name.
no beard.
But yeah, he's Captain No Beard, but he has a beard, of course.
Does he have a parrot? See, like I've only been down there during the day because I am a morning person.
So you've seen pirate pajamas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think once I tried to come down at night. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was beautiful though. I loved it. I loved
That's
the
actually the third one.
Third
'Cause the
boat.
first one was the prop, and that didn't last. So they built a very ingenious one. But it was that was when they rented a storage unit out there and everything, and it required a certain amount of level land, and they put it together and it whatnot. Then that one eventually went to another camp because as I guess as I was coming, no pun
We
intended.
got old and
forward,
lazy, is what happened. We got
yeah. They built the new one's built on a trailer, and then sectionally comes down, and then gets covered in plastic, which is a hysterical day.
Yeah, it's drop down jacks and much more stable. But the really funny part is the first one, the prop, was sold to a kid who came to Penzig as a child, and he played with it in his backyard for years, and he came back and camped with us as an adult.
That's so
It's
cool.
in Cameron's backyard.
Oh yeah.
That is cool. All right, so now I have a question for you. For those who are unwise in the ways of Penzic, what is the difference between the bog and the swamp?
So I would say it kind of depends on who you ask, because a lot of people would say it's interchangeable. And then which one's the bog and which one's the swamp? So there's the lake and there's the road that goes around the lake, and anything kind of below the hill is the swamp. Or the bog, again, depending on who you talk to. So, and I don't know, Lucas, if you have a different take on this, because I only ever heard, like for me, swampy was Setmore Swamp. So I only ever referred to the down part of Penzig as the bog for the longest time. It's only recently that I've started to hear swamp. And I think that's because so many of the other camps down further past the lake got flooded. Over the last couple of years, there's been a ton of flooding, a ton of water, camp shrinking because of the amount of mud. There was the year that we had literally the washout from up top, where we were catching people's kitchens that were literally sinking, flooding down the roads from the Serengeti, and trying to rescue things before it hit the lake. Our bridges on the little rivulets in camp were floating. The captain was fishing with a bamboo fishing rod off one of them. So I would say the swamp is pretty much, or the bog is any place that is lit up after dark. And
See, now I always thought the bog was the area around the lake, and then the swamp was there's that road that has all the tiki torches on it, the real long road that takes you back. That's what I always thought was the way to the swamp.
Yeah,
I guess so, but if you know the camps that are down there, like I guess if the Flaterhouse is the swamp, right?
Yeah, I mean, and Lowlands.
Yeah, well, Lowlands is on that road, and then if you kind of go all the way down to where like Rogues is and Deflator Mouse and where all the crazy kind of wacky party stuff happens down there. So I guess that could be the swamp.
Well, you guys, now I'm up on the Serengeti just because I'm with the theater. I want to be close to that, and I'm not sharking up a hill at like somebody I know at 8 a.m. to go
8 a.m.
to rehearsal.
I walked up that hill at 6:30 in the morning, beat you all there by an hour because I was terrified. So
for Hector?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was a good show. That was a great script. I wish we could do it again. The
man drank instant coffee to make that happen.
Say again, what happened?
He drank instant coffee to make that happen. Like he made his instant coffee in camp so he could be there for that theater at Hector. And I just,
that's suffered. That's real commitment. Drinking instant coffee.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Damiana, what's your favorite? Okay, so we'll do this.
Mhm.
Top 3 memories of Penzic.
Ooh, okay. So there was so I had a tradition when I was single at Penzing is that I would go on walkabout, and whatever happened that night seemed to set the tone for my entire Penzing. So one night I went out just by myself, and I ran into actually Pippin and Matt, two of my good friends from years ago at Setmore Swamp, and they had 2 or 3 young ladies with them, only one of which I knew. And we just kind of joined together and kept walking, and not all the tents were up yet. So right on the lake was this kind of clear spot between 2 trees. It was super. And we sat there and we shared 2 bottles of mead, and we watched the sun come up over the lake. And that was just one of the coolest. And then that ended up being my Penzig of seeing old friends and of kind of reconnecting. And it was awesome. Number 2 would be when I had been introduced to a woman named Kim. And she had made friends with the captain the year before. And I was camping with the captain that year. And she came looking for him. And I was like, who is this drunk chick looking for my buddy Ricardo? You know, like, what is happening right now? He's in bed. Like, you should know this. And then I went up to Setmore Swamp Camp where she was camping, and I'm hanging out with all the guys. And she's like, who is this drunk chick talking to like my dudes? We then met, became super, super tight pretty fast. And my very good friend Matt was his second Penzig that year. And we were at Swamp Stomp, the swamp party, and they had Cloven Fruit, which is a party game that I think only Setmore Swamp still does. I don't know if anyone else in the SCA does it. Are you familiar with it, Zoe?
No, I am. It's not done anymore because there's been a lot of sexual harassment associated with it, like men, creepy older gentlemen forcing young women to take the cloven fruit, like, women who felt like they didn't have a voice. So it's not really done anymore
Oh,
for
that's
that
sad. I
reason.
mean, it's sad that
Yeah.
that happened because, yeah. So at least none of the experiences that I ever had were of that icky nature. But so I drug Matt to meet Kim with said cloven fruit. They're now married with twins.
Yay.
So, so because Kim had it, and she goes, "What do I do with this? I don't know what to do with this." And my husband was like, "Where's Matt?" I'm like, and now there. So that would I don't know. God, there's so many really, really. I did water bearing at the battlefield one year, and that was a really cool experience and really fun. Anytime I've had someone new to bring around, the first time I took a belly dance class at Penzig, the instructor who has since passed, but was just my mom belly danced when I was a kid, and she'd close the bedroom door to practice, and we'd kind of like instead of try to sneak in. And it was so like 70s, 80s fantastic. She had like a pink terry cloth bra set that she made with like the little gold coins that were foil. I mean, like it didn't get more 70s. Her belly dance clothing was some of the first garb I brought to Penzing because I had nothing. That would be my third one is the mac and cheese goddess night. Why my other name is the mac and cheese goddess. So having talked about making a Coda Hardy, you'll appreciate this. So I sought out to make one. This one was actually technically not a Coda Hardy, at least at the front. But I was a broke college student, and all I had to in fabric was my grandmother had given me a pair of old cream-colored polyester satin sheets. Highly flammable, like the whole thing, right? Like would melt. So I made this dress out of polyester, satin, shiny, had the semi-fitted sleeves that opened, and I was eventually going to try to inset some like white, and it never happened. So it depends at Summer Swamp, we had a night where we would take all of the leftover food, like whatever anybody had, and make it. And it was just like, come and eat, whatever we had. And then whatever didn't get eaten, cooked, went to the food pantry, when they came in, whatever. So of course, everyone always have cans of Spam, cans of like beans, and mac and cheese, boxes of mac and cheese. So I had a pot. I mean, it was like, this big, and I made easily 8 to 10 boxes of mac and cheese in this one pot. So I've got like somebody's hand hewn, wooden spoon that's like as big as my leg, and I'm like, yeah. But here I am in lamplight in a dress that is now practically glowing in the dark because it's plastic. So I am glowing over this pot of mac and cheese, stirring it. And the next thing I know, there's like matchroom. They're like, the mac and cheese got us.
Awesome.
Yeah, that dress is somewhere in a gold key garb pile somewhere. I did finally part with it. But yeah. I mean, the tragic garb mistakes of our youth, I feel like are the best. Now I make them with all mistakes of intention. And that's actually how I ended up with my persona of sorts. When Lucas introduced me, I'm the consummate dabbler. I'm just utterly indecisive. I can't make up my mind. I loved the Finnish styles. I think it was like 1300s Finnish. I was like making garb from that. And then I still wanted to do Middle Eastern dancing, and I still love this. And so we came up with the, that if I was some sort of Spanish between North Africa and Spanish trader's daughter.
So that you could have the reason for why you're wearing all this stuff. Yeah.
But I'm on the trade routes. I can kind of do anything. And so that's actually kind of how we got inspired to figure out how to, and then they're like, what's your favorite city in Spain? And I got wonderfully lost in the back alleys of Granada when I was a teenager. And yeah, so that's, and Damiana I got from a, the newsletter, the East Kingdom newsletter, the SCA newsletter. I think it was the EK Royal one. You know what I'm talking about, though. It used to come in an
I do.
actual
What's it
pamphlet.
called? I'm looking for somebody to tell us what it's called in the comments, and they're not.
They're not. Yeah.
But I know which one you're talking about.
Little
Pike staff.
Yeah, they're the pike staff. Yeah. So we had a copy.
Go brain.
I'm driving with my sister out to Penzing, and I just thought it would be a good idea to have an alias because I really didn't know what I was in for. And so I'm flipping through, and someone had written an article and had signed it Damiana. I'm like, that sounds pretty. I didn't know anything about it until a particularly lascivious and vaguely skeevy vendor asked me if I knew that it was a verb, if I knew that it was an herb that's used as an aphrodisiac in some countries. And I totally lied through my teeth and was like, of course.
Leave me alone, creeper dude. Yeah.
I had no idea. But it accentuates the external nervous system. And it's also a liquor you can buy. It's in a little fertility goddess bottle. Only my sister can track these things down. And it tastes, if you imagine licking your entire spice cabinet at once and then adding a little brandy, that's what it tastes like.
Okay, I'll give that a miss.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah,
so,
it's a conversation piece.
Lucas, do you have questions? Because I have more. If you don't have anything.
I mean,
okay.
I could lead this a couple different ways. I actually thought one of your stories was going to be a recent one. Damiana, along with a few other women in our camp, had like this like epic three bachelorette party kind of thing, and they planned this one that like literally was like scavenger hunt, like 6-7 different camps and whatnot, and it was pretty epic.
That was like my favorite to plan. We've had bachelorette parties for all of our campmates that are getting married, and one of ours whose pirate name is Powder Kegs, although she's got a new one, Shotzi Blackthorn.
Shotzi Blackheart. It's a wrestler. It's a wrestler, yeah. but it works.
It works for her, yeah. And she has a lot of friends at Penzing, so she'd been going to Penzing for a number of years before she got engaged, so that she knew a lot of people in a lot of camps. And I am a serial bridesmaid, and so I've done a lot of events, and so this one was so much fun to do. But we had clues that she had to solve to figure out what camp to go to next, and then there was a challenge at every camp. So we didn't go. I forget what happened. Something happened. We didn't make it all the way to Tortuga. And then we kind of made our way around. We went to Pierce's camp where they do the virgin sacrifice, the Penzing virgin sacrifice. And she had to recruit and find Penzing virgins. And she is one of the only people outside of the camp. I think there's like 8 or 10 people in all of history who has sacrificed virgins at Penzing, and she is now one of them. And then we ended up in
Oh,
a
wait. So we do have to explain that it's not actually a
oh
real
wait, no, actual
sacrifice.
Yeah,
sacrifice.
no,
Okay.
No,
No
yeah,
virgins were actually killed in
yeah,
this.
I'm gonna say the majority of them probably not traditional virgins either. So I'm glad we
Right.
dependent
changed
virgin.
Right.
that thing to moderate. By the way, in our thing, because
Yeah, it's a fantastic. Pierce such a great job of just pomp and circumstance and ritual, and it's like just one of those neat kitschy things to say you've been to and done.
yeah, well, I
And
mean, it's a celebration of coming to Penzig, of
yeah,
somebody who's there for their first time. That's
it's
really
like your
great.
Penzig coming out party.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then we went down to an individual's rather expansive yurt, who had arranged for we played like these weird, very girly party games. Like, is it a nail polish color or was it a movie title or something like that? Which I was very confused at for a moment because he's like, "Don't worry about it, I got this." This is after, and we also had a drink at every camp we stopped at, of course. And when we got there, two of Vito's minions showed up and gave us a review show that they would have been proud of in New York, I must say. They did an
Okay.
excellent
So
job.
which two minions were it? Were they?
I don't know. I
We'll
think
have
they
to
would
find
prefer.
out.
I think they would prefer if I didn't know. But
but
we
there
also
was
had
you did the bobbing for beer for liquor
bobbing
at
for
Setmore.
beer.
That was a cool one.
Yeah, and they had a mermaid there for us in the pool.
Yeah.
Hickman did that, yeah, and she bobbed for beer, and then we met a couple other guys that just gave us shots of whiskey. Rat Bastard was one of them. We went all over, and we went to Midnight Soul, and they had drinks for us in their fridge, and we sat in their beautiful tents looking out at the lake at Midnight Soul, and everyone was just so willing to help out, and that's to me the magic of Penzig, and even more so really the magic of the bog is that like if it's in the name of a good person for a good time, a good cause, everyone is just ready to step up. And like the people couldn't be at Midnight Soul, they couldn't be in camp, they're like, stuff's in the fridge, talk, this person knows where it is, have at it. And like they just left our whole camp open for us to like literally raid their kitchen, and trust that we wouldn't eat them out of house and home, which was tempting, but we didn't. And it was just that's what to me Penzig is really about, is about people coming together, for a good time, and in whatever that means, bardic circles, which I do wish we had more of those down in the bog. They happen few and far between. And it's so scheduled now, like there's so much that happens. There's little for, I used to love wandering and finding the random bardic circle, finding this party, finding this drum circle. And now it's like Wednesday's Wolf Den, Tuesday's Mardi Gras, and like everybody has a day and a schedule. And we kind of, a bunch of us made the commitment last Penzig that we were like, we're not doing it. We're going to wander and we're going to find, and we're going to, find other things instead of the scheduled big events.
So I will take you because what I like to do at Penzic is firewalk on the rare nights that I'm actually up past dark, which makes me sound so old and lame, but I'm usually up by 5 a.m. even at Penzic. I like to just walk, and if I come to a camp where people are sitting around, me and the peeps I'm with will just be like, "Hey, you want a story or a song?" And for a cup of water because I don't drink, right? Because I only have one kidney, not because I'm a teetotaler. And then, I'll tell one of my stories or somebody will sing a quick song and then we'll be like, bye, thanks for letting us come. And then we'll go to the next camp and then another person will jump up and tell a story or sing a song. And so slowly we would do a rota. I did it at Gulf Wars too, and that was a ton of fun. So we'll do that. We'll do it
That
at
would be
Penzic.
awesome. I would love that. That would be super cool. I have to come up with a story because you really don't want me singing.
Oh, I can work with you on stories. I got you.
Yeah, I mean, my first Penzig, I didn't even know there was more. Like,
Right.
in fact, going on that walk, I came with people, and we did everything there was to do during the day. I went to court, I went to fencing competitions, I went to battles, I did all this kind of stuff, and then it was like dark, sleep, because you had to get up for something the next day. And then that was my first one. A buddy of mine and I, we were like, we're not tired. And everybody was going to bed. We're like, we'll go for a walk. And we were like, this place goes on forever. And like walk down into that, into that area, and we didn't know anything about it.
My favorite. Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
My favorite story of that is, so we both knew Orlando and Phineas, who is the ship's apothecary, through Ren Fair for years. And during this whole epiphany that Lucas had, Phineas does there's stuff to do during the day. And Orlando goes, there's stuff to do during at night.
And then I'm oft accused of and in a nice way, of straddling the line. That like in recent years, I like, I get about 4 hours sleep, and then I
tightrope.
Yeah.
Good balance. It's fine.
And do all the things. So we're kind of skirting a slightly serious issue, I think. And that was, Damiana, you brought up that like you've always just felt completely safe, and I think that there's, when you hear stories about Penzing, sometimes you hear all these like weird stories about what happened at the swamp last night, and like, something happened to somebody and whatnot, and I could certainly talk from my male perspective, but that's not really what I'm asking. Is that, like, I've never seen anything like that, but but I know that those things, with other experiences that I've heard even up top, that those things do happen. And so, like, could you comment on like why, like, have you ever not felt safe, or in feeling safe all the time, can you kind of comment on like a situation where like you thought, well, this is a predator's, like, perfect storm, and all these people took care of me, or something like that?
Actually, there's a couple of that, and so one of the scariest experiences I ever had was, I was with a bunch of friends, and we were at Casa Bardici. And of course, when I was younger and much dumber, I never thought twice about someone offers you a Boda bag of something like a homebrew or whatever. And I really can't say that I was drugged. I don't know if it was that, and I was very inebriated. Like, I had drunk a lot. And since then, I had an experience of drinking someone else's. Again, I was drinking a lot, and someone offered me their cordial, and it was someone who I like knew on the fringes, so I didn't feel as dumb. And I had a very bad reaction. I was violently ill all night long. The first time it happened when I left Casa Verdici, and I don't know when I could have been exposed to it, but I actually was so disoriented, I couldn't find my way back to camp. I actually went back to Setmore Swamp, because that's where I had camped for a decade, and I found my way. And I found my friend Alyssa, and I just collapsed in her lap sobbing because I was just so lost. I lost a shoe in the mud, so I was one-footed coming up the hill. I was dizzy. My balance was compromised. There were parts of the evening I didn't remember, and I do remember somebody from, and I don't know that he lived at Casa. I don't want to cast stones anywhere, but saying, "Oh, I'll get you a bottle of water." Walking outside of the Casa to the back where everyone kind of camps, and it's like a muddy morass, and he just left me there, and I found a cooler to sit on to wait for him, thinking he was bringing water, and he just never came back. And so that was, and then that's when I was already starting to get disoriented, and that's when I lost my shoe, and I made it back, and I was just violently ill all night long, my head out the tent, our friend Jen kind of petting me. And I woke up the next day starving, like perfectly fine, like not hungover, not sick, nothing like that. So, I don't know what happened. I know that I was really lucky. And I do credit the community at Penzig, for the fact that, to a large extent, nothing happened, but it was really dumb. And I was really very lucky that nothing more serious did occur, because I was alone. I left my, like, party girl error number one. I left my group to follow this weird guy to go get some water. And at the time, it never occurred to me. The next morning, I was like, oh, wow. Like, that was, and I think that at the time, nobody thought about it either. Like, oh, Taryn's gone. Like, she's going to go do what she's doing, whatever. Okay, fine. She found some guys or whatever. Nobody probably thought anything about it. until I came home and was clearly not okay. I mean, I was covered in mud because I had fallen multiple times. I was scraped up. Like it looked like I went like 2 rounds with a bear. I was really messed up. And I was just really damn lucky I wasn't more messed up, you know. So I count that as 100% super lucky.
Thank you for sharing that story with us. I don't know if you know, and I don't know if you know, Lucas, but my eldest child was sexually assaulted at Pensick, and they managed to get away. And one of the things that people need to be aware of to just let our audience know, folks, if anything ever happens like that to you, then you find somebody on the watch immediately. And they will help you. They will help call the cops. They will get you the help that you need. That's why they're there. And call for help, and people will help you. I am so grateful that you escaped from that unscathed, though.
Yeah, it was, and I agree. And I know that sometimes it's hard to find someone, especially in the depth of the bog. But it's amazing. One word will bring people running. And I don't think I was even aware of my own distress until I realized I couldn't find home. Conversely, at another event, where there was lots of day drinking happening, a friend of mine, somebody was being overly friendly with her and, had his arm around her, and she attempted to disengage and he wouldn't let go. And it got, a little scary for her. And she eventually disengaged and she kind of came running over and she was like freaked out. And she's like, this, and told me what happened. And, I walked over to him, grabbed him by his earlobe, twisted it like he was a 4-year-old, marched him over to her and said, you better apologize right now before I get your ass kicked. And he literally was like, I don't understand what happened. And then she was like, and explained from her perspective what had gone on. He's like, oh my God. He's like, and obviously he'd been drinking, he's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, I really didn't realize, or whatever. And I'm like, when somebody fucking says no and tells you to get your hands off of them, you better listen. The next time it's gonna be your kneecaps, not your earlobe.
Go you. You're
Yeah,
fierce.
I
I
was
love
like, and
you.
everyone's like, look at me like, who? But I'm like, no, nobody's putting up with that shit here. This is Pensick.
Uh-uh.
This is our safe space. This is my safe space. Like, no. Mm-mm. And I feel like that's what needs to happen. More people need to say, that's not okay.
Well, there's a group that I started called the Angry Aunties, which is all of us older women, not you, me, and the other women, like just the older moms and aunts, and we're gonna take care of these women, the young ones. When Rowan was assaulted, Rowan was 18, and Rowan is a very beautiful person, low cut top, you know, and the predators like the new ones. That's who they like. He This dude just didn't realize whose 18-year-old he was messing with. That Rowan's my kid, and Rowan's first Pensick was when they were in my womb. The wrong kid to mess with, dude.
Yeah,
You
not a
know,
first rodeo here. Yeah.
so the angry aunties are from this whole perspective of we are going to just start going to the bog and the swamp and the Serengeti. We're just going to walk all of Pensick. Excuse me, I don't mean to make it sound like the bog and the swamp are the can only be unsafe. All of Pensick can be unsafe, and so us angry aunties are going to run around Pensick and keep the young women safe.
Mhm.
That's our goal.
I mean, I'd have to say for my part, what I've seen a lot of is it, again with that party scene, chivalry is really not dead at Penzic.
Yeah.
People are really, looking out. I mean, I could say with with almost 100% certainty, anybody that we associate with down there would
Mhm.
would be beside themselves if they were accused of of anything like that. They're very protective of their own, and they count everybody down there as their own.
Yeah.
And even so much as just like we're gonna walk this person back up. They've been drinking a lot. They'd say they're up here, but and then a couple people go, so it's not just one person, or you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
safety in numbers and all that kind of stuff. And it's just been it's for me it's always seemed like a pretty positive experience.
Right.
And
Well,
years
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, years ago when the first when rumblings and sort of public avowal of a sexual assault occurring at Penzig, had happened, and it was the first sort of like we're waking up from this dream, you know, and I was going to go on my walkabout, I got there my first night, like, gonna go, and my friend's like, no, you're not. And I was like, excuse you? Like, yeah, I am. And he's like, well, you're not going by yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And he's like, well, then I'm going with you. And bless his heart, but he did. My obstinate ass had company like the entire night because he, wouldn't. And then another time was down in the bog going up to Octobar to find somebody or meet somebody or something. And they were like, well, you're not going to go by yourself. And I was like, seriously, it's on the road. Like, it'll be fine. And they were like, nope. So yeah, so I would say I would agree. Like, chivalry is way not dead. And all it takes is telling someone where you're going, and you will have company.
Mm-hmm.
It's just don't sneak out, just don't disappear, and you will have company.
Nice.
Even the times I've snuck out, I fell asleep on a bench and security woke me up and told me where to go. It was very nice. I felt safe. I took a walk. Literally, I took a walk with a gallon jug of water, and by the time I got around to that bench, I was tired. I sat down and I just went right out, and I was like, "Sir, what? Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go back to camp now."
Yeah, Luke does occasionally have party-induced narcolepsy.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that what we're calling it now? Okay.
Yes.
Poor Lucas. I keep dragging him into doing plays at Penzic.
I know.
Then he's got to try to sleep after rehearsals.
I don't.
He does not. He's amazing though at running on very little sleep. Like, you do make it look easy. I could never. I would be zombie. I can't do it.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing that suffers at Penzic when I do that is my marriage. Like, that's, you know what I mean? And so she's what? Yeah, no,
I'm gonna say nothing on that.
Because she gets all of my angst. She gets all of that, like, I'm tired, and it all gets directed because I know she's not gonna leave. Do you know what I mean? So that's today.
Yeah, she can't lock you out of the tent. Yeah.
She has. You were there.
Yeah. Well, that was your cart.
Yeah, but Joe, do you have anything else, or
No, I was good. We're almost time to wrap up.
Well,
believe it or not.
That's where I was going to go. You said earlier on that you that, like, this is like round 3 of kind of coming back, that you so it's kind of a two-parter. Like, so we know what got you into it. What keeps you coming back? And then one of the things that I think is going to become like a general question for us towards the end is, what are those growth points in the SCA that you see from your perspective, like where it could go, where it needs to evolve in some way? So, like, what brings you back, and where are you going with it the third time around?
Yeah, so I mean, what brings me back is all the things I love about it that are still true. The scholarship, the interest. I am curious about literally everything, and so I find something to engage me at, like, any event, anything. Do I love it when my sister's like, well, you can come visit, but I'm going to go to this event? I'm like, yes. There's always somebody cool to meet, a great story to hear. And I love that about it. I had a fairly full existence prior to the SCA, in that when I joined and I met a lot of the people from Setmore Swamp, the group and their household was also their social circle. So when I would get together with people from event to event, they had seen each other maybe 15 times in between, at parties and sort of social circles. So that made things a little bit strange at times, when it's a smaller group like a Baron or a Canton, and everyone in there is friends, and you're kind of just sort of breaking in, but you don't really want a new best friend circle. You just want a cool hobby thing to go do. And I'd say the other thing is I don't have a lot of time for, or I guess I'm curious about so many things that I don't devote all of my attention to any one thing. And I feel like there aren't a lot of beginner experiences in the SCA so much, that once you kind of do like an intro something, it's like, someone immediately wants, like, well, let's, now you need like your own forge, and you're going to do all these things. And it's like, I don't want to forge. I'll burn my garage down. I just want to come and learn some cool stuff today. And And so that's what like the Scolas and things like that are kind of cool when they're geared to people who just want to like find out some cool stuff. I love ANS competitions because I can go and see what everyone else has done and sort of play. But I went to a heavy weapons fighter practice. My helmet was tuned to middle C,
Nice.
so I got hit, and the only thing I could say was good. And I decided it wasn't for me, and I came home and shaved my legs. So I needed to do something feminine. I don't know, like it was such a strange. I tried fencing, and I can't see out of the mask. Like all I could see was a screen door in front of me. So that was unsuccessful really. Archery, I grew up doing archery. And so that was super fun to do in the SCA and great to do with events and things like that. But I then it was like, well, are you going to make a thumb ring and learn this period shooting style and all these kind of things? I'm like, I just want to come out and shoot some stuff. Let's just have some fun. So I think it's that balance. Like it's a balance between people who are so passionate about what they do that they want to share it versus expecting everyone else to have the same passion, if
Right.
that kind of makes sense.
Oh, totally. Like I do throwing weapons. I love throwing weapons. Like I don't even own my own weapons. I just love going to the range and just chucking things at a target, and then I'm like, thanks, bye.
Right, like yeah, it's great. It's amazing,
Awesome.
and I think it's more about me than about anything in the SCA that I think I always felt like I should do more. And possibly it's just watching my sister like take and like she wants to do Anglo-Saxon poetry, so she builds her own lyre because that's what you do.
Right.
And so those of us that just want to be there for just the learning experience, I don't know. I guess it's a weird. I don't know what's going on as much anymore, which is strange in our information superhighway. Like you'd think I would know. About events. And it is weird. Like I said, it is like a homecoming again, the sort of third round. And I think it's almost weirder now to break back in to catch up with people after like 10 years of just random Facebook things. But it is a new world, and there is so much now with COVID happening, with people trying to do stuff online, and it's been really interesting.
Yeah.
I think that if there was one growing experience, I would say for the SCA, it would be about the politics. One of the reasons why I stopped doing feasts and cooking is because I had an experience where the day board, the person who's coaching me at day board, because I'd never done a feast before, so you need like a help, to kind of guide you so you don't really mess up. Had a personal issue with the person doing dinner, doing a feast. And I ended up in the middle of it, and that was super weird. And then there were another time I did, there was things I just wasn't aware of. There was a lot of tension, around the staff of the event, and things like that. So I think it would be just I guess kind of a check the issues at the door for some things. And I know that's just people though,
Right.
that's just a people thing. So I don't know that that's a fix per se, but I think that when you've got people who are in the peerage and who are polling and who are, on the message boards, sometimes that kind of takes over the greater message of we're here for a good time, and we're here to, enjoy our friends, and we're here to enjoy other people and meet new people and make new friends and learn new things. And that's the core of it. Leave all that, leave the polling, leave the message boards, leave the nonsense at the door. Come to the event, have a good time.
From your lips to God's ears. All right, we are out of time. Lucas, do you want to say who's going to be our guest in 2 weeks, or do you want me to? I just pulled it up, so I can do it if you're not ready.
Be good, because I'll mispronounce it. I know there was.
Oh, I'm going to mispronounce it anyway. Sorry. Okay, so look, he did send us a shot. So our guest in 2 weeks is Oswin of Bathan. He is I'm sure I probably said it wrong. Sorry, Oswin. He is the chancellor of the Royal University of the Mid-Realm, and I am so excited that he is going to be our next guest. 2 weeks from now, which is February 18th. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Damiana. You are so incredible, and don't ever not be in my life again.
Yeah, I have to say, if there are two people at Penzig who I know but never intersected, the two of you need to spend time together.
We
more.
really do.
Yeah.
I would love that because we've actually kind of like randomly crossed here and there at the A&S tent and stuff with between seeing my sister perform and seeing this nutcase. Yeah, and the stories he tells and brings back are just epic. So I would love that very, very much.
We are gonna go far. Booty McCall and whatever Christy comes up with as my name.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you, and we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much. It was super fun.
Thank you.